Jessica Reynolds' first-class tantrum on Flight 402 shocked everyone on board, turning a routine flight into a viral spectacle that would ignite outrage across the globe. The day started like any other for passengers boarding Flight 402, a routine trip from New York to Los Angeles. First-class seats gleamed under soft overhead lighting, and flight attendants moved gracefully through the aisles, offering champagne and small smiles of welcome. Among the crowd, one woman immediately drew attention. Her designer luggage rolled behind her. Her perfectly styled hair and tailored outfit marked her as someone who expected the world to bend to her will. She entered first class with a confident stride, scanning the cabin as if choosing the perfect throne. Other passengers noticed her demeanor, sensing an air of entitlement that seemed to hover around her. Once seated, her presence became impossible to ignore. She asked for extra pillows and blankets, even though the crew politely explained that service would follow a set order. She pressed her demands further, insisting that meals be brought immediately and refusing to wait her turn. Each request grew sharper, each tone more demanding. Flight attendants tried to maintain calm professionalism, answering politely yet firmly, but the tension in the cabin was rising. A few passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing that this wasn't just an ordinary travel complaint. As the plane ascended, her behavior escalated. Safety instructions were met with scoffs and outright refusal to comply. She gestured dramatically, occasionally standing in the aisle, drawing the eyes of everyone nearby. Even seasoned attendants exchanged quick glances, knowing that such defiance could not go unchecked. What had started as minor disruptions now hinted at a larger storm brewing in first class. Passengers whispered, some discreetly recording videos on their phones, capturing moments that were increasingly tense and unpredictable. By mid-flight, it became clear that this woman's actions were more than just impatience or bad manners. Her insistence on being treated differently, her disregard for rules meant to protect everyone on board, and her mounting hostility had created a dangerous atmosphere. The flight attendants tried everything in their training: calm reasoning, polite redirection, and warnings, but nothing worked. The situation had shifted from discomfort to alarm. What would normally be a routine trip had turned into a brewing crisis, one that would escalate beyond anyone's expectations and set the stage for a series of events that would soon be broadcast worldwide. The tension in the cabin continued to rise as the flight progressed, and it wasn't long before the situation became impossible to ignore. Passengers had begun discreetly recording the scene on their phones, capturing the woman's increasingly erratic behavior. Standing in the aisle, waving her arms, and speaking loudly to anyone who would listen, she seemed determined to make sure everyone on the plane witnessed her outrage. Other passengers tried to avoid eye contact, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats, while others whispered nervously, unsure whether to intervene or remain silent. The atmosphere was thick with unease, and even those who had boarded with excitement now felt a growing sense of dread. Flight attendants moved carefully through the cabin, attempting to restore order. Each polite request she ignored only seemed to fuel her agitation. She demanded priority service for meals, asked for special accommodations that didn't exist, and refused to return to her seat when instructed. Crew members remained calm, but their faces betrayed the strain of managing a situation that was rapidly spiraling out of control. With every passing minute, the woman's defiance escalated, and what began as annoyance had transformed into a real threat to the order and safety of the flight. By the time the plane was halfway across the country, the incident had drawn the attention of the passengers near the front. Phones captured moments that were shocking and surreal: a fully grown adult disregarding authority, shouting at a team of trained professionals, and disrupting the flight for everyone on board. Within moments, some videos were being shared online, and social media users were quick to assign nicknames, with first-class Karen emerging almost immediately. The footage spread like wildfire, accumulating millions of views within hours. Comments poured in from around the world, with viewers expressing disbelief, amusement, and outrage. What was particularly alarming to experts was not just her entitlement, but the potential danger she posed. Flight attendants are trained to manage difficult passengers, but the woman's actions went beyond simple complaints. Ignoring safety rules in the cabin could have catastrophic consequences, and the crew's repeated efforts to reason with her were met with increasing hostility. The viral video captured only part of the story. What it didn't show was the growing anxiety among passengers and the quiet fear that the situation could escalate further before the plane even touched the ground. The stage was set for a confrontation that no one would forget, one that would soon make headlines and ignite debates across social media, news channels, and airline forums worldwide. As Flight 402 began its descent into Los Angeles, the tension in first class was almost unbearable. Passengers had been on edge for hours, and the woman's behavior had only grown more extreme. She refused to buckle her seatbelt, waved off multiple warnings from the crew, and continued to make loud, aggressive demands. The flight attendants, trained for emergencies and difficult passengers, knew that this situation required immediate action once the plane landed. Yet, even as they coordinated quietly with ground staff, they were aware that removing someone in this state could become a highly charged and visible confrontation. When the plane touched down and taxied to the gate, airport security and local law enforcement were already on standby, alerted ahead of time about the potential for a serious disruption. As the doors opened, officers approached cautiously, anticipating resistance. Passengers watched anxiously, some filming what they assumed would be the climax of an ordeal that had dominated their flight. The woman, however, seemed entirely unprepared to comply. Her eyes blazed with defiance, and she refused to stand or cooperate, holding tight to her designer carry-on as if it were a shield. The situation escalated rapidly. Officers attempted to persuade her to exit the plane voluntarily, but each request was met with shouting and refusal. Witnesses later described the moment as surreal, a fully grown adult, trapped by her own anger and pride, resisting multiple law enforcement officials in a confined space. Security footage captured the struggle, showing her being gently but firmly guided toward the exit, then pulling back and resisting with surprising strength. The officers maintained their composure, using techniques designed to protect both the woman and the crew, but the scene was chaotic, tense, and undeniably dramatic. By the time she was finally removed from the aircraft, the moment had already been recorded by dozens of passengers. The video quickly spread across social media, showing her being escorted down the jetway with officers on either side, still struggling against authority. Millions of viewers watched in shock, some expressing disbelief, others debating whether the crew had acted appropriately. What made the story even more surprising was the discovery that this was not an isolated incident. Investigators quickly uncovered a pattern of behavior, previous flights, encounters with law enforcement, and public confrontations that had never escalated to this level. Flight 402 had captured a tipping point, a collision of entitlement, defiance, and consequence that the world would not soon forget. The arrest sparked immediate controversy and discussion, with news outlets analyzing every frame and social media dissecting every gesture. What had begun as a routine flight had turned into a viral phenomenon, and behind the headlines lay a story far more complex than a single viral video, a story of patterns, behavior, and the consequences of refusing to follow rules meant to keep everyone safe. In the days following the arrest, journalists and investigators began digging into the woman's past, uncovering details that painted a startling picture. What had seemed like a one-time eruption on Flight 402 was, in fact, part of a disturbing pattern of behavior. Records revealed previous incidents at other airports and on multiple flights, where she had caused disruptions, argued with staff, and refused to comply with rules. Each encounter had ended with warnings, fines, or minor interventions, but none had escalated to the level seen in Los Angeles. Flight 402 had been different. Everything had aligned perfectly, exposing the depth of her entitlement and defiance. Her social media accounts added another layer of insight. Photos and videos posted over the years hinted at a personality drawn to public attention, someone who thrived on confrontation and the reactions of others. Experts labeled it performative outrage, a behavior designed to provoke, intimidate, and dominate situations while ensuring maximum visibility. Every viral clip she had created, whether in a store, a restaurant, or on a plane, appeared to reinforce this pattern. It was less about a single event and more about the consistent escalation of a persona she had cultivated online and in real life. Airline insiders confirmed that passengers like her were both feared and frustratingly familiar. While most disruptions are minor and manageable, there are rare individuals whose behavior can pose real threats to safety and order. Flight attendants reported that she had a reputation in the industry, often recognized by crews who had dealt with her before. Despite previous interventions, her actions showed no signs of remorse or learning. Instead, each incident seemed to embolden her further, creating a dangerous feedback loop. the investigation also revealed unexpected dimensions of her life outside the cabin. Financial documents and public records suggested a lifestyle maintained through appearances and careful curation, one that relied on projecting wealth, status, and control. Authorities speculated that the dramatic confrontations were an extension of this persona, a way to assert dominance and maintain a sense of power in public spaces. Psychologists suggested that Flight 402 had been the culmination of years of escalating behavior, a tipping point where opportunity, exposure, and pattern collided. As more details emerged, the story transformed from a viral sensation into a case study of modern social behavior, entitlement, and consequence. Flight 402 was no longer just a flight gone wrong, it was a lens into the complex interplay of personality, media, and societal norms. The viral arrest was just the beginning. The real story was the pattern that had led to it, a chain of events that made the world ask, how far could someone push before the consequences became unavoidable? The aftermath of the Flight 402 incident was immediate and far-reaching. The video of the woman being removed from the plane continued to circulate online, shared across platforms and replayed on news channels. Millions watched in disbelief as the story unfolded, some expressing outrage at her behavior, others debating the airline's handling of the situation. The viral footage had made her a symbol of entitlement, but it also sparked wider discussions about safety, authority, and personal responsibility in public spaces. Authorities moved quickly to address the legal consequences. She faced multiple charges, including resisting law enforcement, interfering with flight crew operations, and endangering passengers. Lawyers and experts debated potential penalties, noting that her history of previous incidents could lead to stricter sentencing. The arrest on Flight 402 had exposed more than just her defiance. It revealed a pattern of escalating behavior that could no longer be ignored or dismissed as minor infractions. Airlines and industry insiders reacted as well, using the incident as a cautionary tale. Flight attendants received additional training on handling high-risk passengers, and procedures for in-flight escalations were reviewed and updated. Policies were examined to balance passenger rights with crew safety, ensuring that future situations could be managed effectively while minimizing risks. The story of Flight 402 became a benchmark, referenced in meetings, safety courses, and media discussions alike. Public fascination with the case didn't wane. Memes, commentary, and analysis flooded social media, with debates about entitlement, social media culture, and public behavior dominating conversations. Experts weighed in on performative outrage, explaining how public attention can reinforce extreme behavior. Psychologists noted that the woman's actions were not isolated incidents but a carefully constructed pattern designed to provoke reactions and gain notoriety. The flight, once routine, had become a real-world example of these dynamics, visible to millions worldwide. As legal proceedings unfolded, more revelations came to light. Investigators discovered potential fraudulent activities connected to her lifestyle, along with prior confrontations that had been kept out of the public eye. The case expanded beyond a single viral video, highlighting how repeated disregard for rules and social norms can culminate in serious consequences. Flight 402, once a mundane journey, had become a defining moment in her life and a cultural touchstone for a world increasingly fascinated by entitlement, accountability, and the power of viral moments. The story ended with lessons that resonated far beyond the plane. It was a stark reminder that actions have consequences, that authority exists for a reason, and that viral fame can emerge from the most unexpected and sometimes most chaotic moments. Flight 402 was over, but the impact of that shocking day would be remembered for years to come.